Greetings! Welcome back to Sunday School. Today we're going to talk about how some people can talk with Jesus without even knowing it. Let me set the scene for you. 2020 years ago, Jesus, who was seen by his followers as the Messiah and the light of the world, was grabbed at night, tortured, killed, and then he was put into a tomb the next day. And then 3 days later, amazingly, after it was opened, he was gone. Now, he was gone, but his disciples were still in Jerusalem, and they were being hunted, and they were scared and confused. And two of the disciples, two that you don't normally hear about, Cephas and Simon, they decided to leave town. It was too dangerous for them, that they were going to leave Jerusalem. And they decided to leave together. It's always safer to travel in a group. So they were going to leave the area together. And let's have the map show us where Jerusalem and where Emmaus was, because they were going to go to Emmaus because that was safer. Arrow, wake up. Arrow's a little bit sleepy. He always wakes up easier when more than one person tells him to wake up. So on the count of three, all of us think or say, wake up. 1, 2, 3. Arrow, wake up! Oh, we got him up. Okay, Arrow, we're telling a story about Jerusalem. Can you show us where Jerusalem is? Oh, good. Okay, go to Jerusalem. Yep, Jerusalem's right there. And so the disciples were in Jerusalem where Jesus had been crucified. And two of them, Simon and Cephas, decided to go up to Emmaus. Show us where Emmaus is. Okay, Emmaus is not that far away. Can you find it? He's looking. Not quite. No, it's not that far up. Let's try again. Ah, there it is. Emmaus. You found it. Good boy. You can go back to sleep now. I'm sorry we woke you up with such a start. Okay, so the two disciples were going up to Emmaus, and as they walked along the road, and it's a mountain road, well, they walked. And as they walked, they talked. And they talked about the amazing things they'd seen. They saw their master, Jesus, coming in a triumphant parade into Jerusalem on a donkey like a king would. And they saw him teach in the temple. And they saw him heal people. And then he was kidnapped at night and killed and buried in a tomb. And they were very unhappy about this. And at that point, a stranger walked up and asked, "What are you talking about so sadly?" And Cephas said, "We thought Jesus of Nazareth was the Messiah. He's dead now. We don't understand." And the stranger said, "Oh, that's because Jesus had to fulfill the prophecies." They said, "What prophecies?" Well, the prophets, Jeremiah, Micah, Samuel, Ezekiel, all of these prophets told us what the Messiah was supposed to be doing. And Jesus did them. I mean, if you go back and see, each of them said something like, one of them said he would be born of a virgin. Mary is back in Jerusalem. Go ask her. She was a virgin when Jesus was born because God came over her, and that makes Jesus, the Son of God. And he was born in Bethlehem. And they spent some time in Egypt because it was a little dangerous for them in Judea at that point. So he came out, he was called out of Egypt to be a messenger of the new covenant. And you saw how he would teach in the temple. He'd always tell little stories, little parables. And yeah, in the big parade that he came in, where he was riding a donkey, and you were there too, that was prophesied. And even though he died, not a bone of him was broken. All of these were things that were prophesied. And the two disciples were amazed at the wisdom of the stranger. And they asked him to come and join them in a drink. And so they decided to stop and have a little bit of food and drink together. And as they sat there, the stranger started to say a prayer. And at that moment, something happened. So something happened. They realized that it was Jesus that was sitting betwixt them. That Jesus had risen from the dead and was now sitting next to Cephas. And he was sitting next to Simon. And they were amazed. In fact, you could sort of say that they just couldn't believe their eyes. That the man they thought was dead was risen and alive. Why did they not recognize him on the road? Well, the Bible says they didn't recognize him on the road while they walked and they talked, was because their eyes were holden. They were being controlled by God. That what's in front of you, you don't always see. So, as they were sitting there with their drink and their food, Jesus, who was with them, now he had taken the bread and broken it, and in his hands he was saying a prayer. And between them, as he said the prayer, he vanished. He wasn't there anymore. And they were amazed that they decided that they ought to take a U-turn. They decided that they ought to go back to where they were in Jerusalem and tell the disciples that what they had seen, that Jesus is risen. He's risen indeed. So we must remember that people can talk with Jesus around them without even knowing it. That he stands betwixt you and me, between us and other folks. And if you want to remind me that Jesus stands betwixt us all and that you don't always see what's right in front of you, well, we can join a twixt together between the two of us at church. Thank you, and we'll see you at church.